From Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
In the words of the famous Cleveland group, Bone Thugs and Harmony, it's the first of the month. There we go. It's the first of the month, May 1st. May 1st came around kind of fast, didn't it?
I can't believe it's May already. I cannot believe it's May already. Where has the time gone?
It has gone really fast, and I think you probably feel that way, Bailey, just because the way the sports month ends in April, it doesn't really lend itself to really sit back and think about things, right? I mean, we had the draft. Obviously, the Brave season is in full swing. And then you have, well, in this case, the NBA playoffs wasn't taking place in the city of Atlanta. But, you know, under normal circumstances, you have stuff like the NBA playoffs. There's a lot going on when you get into late April.
Yep. Nope, there's a lot going on now. Especially for the Falcons, they're going to start rookie minicamp, and then they get into OTAs. So we'll get our first look at Michael Penix Jr. on Friday of next week.
That's pretty dope because, look, let me tell you, I haven't really, since the draft happened, I mean, it happened last Thursday, and I really haven't done a Sports Tonight to even talk about what I thought about the Falcons draft.
So do you want me to recap ever so briefly what I thought, and then I'll just give you the floor?
For sure.
I basically said I am a reasonable woman. I will give it time. I'm not going to hate it too much. I do believe in the old school model of getting, the Jordan Love model. Bring someone in young and have him learn under a very capable vet.
You know firsthand about that one.
I do, and I think Kirk Cousins is a great person to learn under for Michael Penix Jr. I think where fans get really disgruntled about this pick is these two things don't necessarily mesh well together. You have one that's win now with Kirk Cousins, and the best case scenario for him is he plays 4 years and plays stellarly, and they make the playoffs and hopefully even end up in a Super Bowl if they can.
That's pie in the sky right there.
Correct. I'm just saying that's the best case, right?
Right.
But the best case for where Michael Penix Jr. is concerned is he's playing in a year or two. So one of those has to fail for the other to succeed. And that is where I think fans are disgruntled because they thought it was win now, and why not use your pick for something better? So but I'm willing to see where it goes. You can't judge draft picks off of just being picked. They haven't even played it down in the NFL. Sorry. So I want to see how it works out. Who knows? Maybe there's a world where Kirk Cousins balls out for 2 years and then retires and Penix is ready. But I will let you have the floor and give your opinion because I think all of us have talked about it except you at this point.
No, I think, look, and here's one thing I will say. I think when the NFL draft rolls around, I think what people often forget about is that there is 7 rounds of an NFL draft, right? So I think I like the way the Falcons were thinking because we all know in the NFL and really in any sport, the quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports. If you have the quarterback position settled for the next 10, 12 years, that means everybody in that front office is probably going to be with that team longer. That means the team is probably going to be competitive for many years, and that's a good thing for everybody involved. When you look at what the Falcons went through last year, having Desmond Ridder quarterback, Taylor Heineke, it was unsettled the entire year. They were going back and forth. They didn't have an answer at the quarterback position, and that's why they had a new football coach. That's why Arthur Smith isn't here right now. So remember when Raheem took over and he said, look, if we got better quarterback play last season, I'm probably not sitting here today. And he's absolutely right. So the best way to ensure that he'll be sitting there 7 or 8 years from now is to have capable players at the quarterback position. So
you're refusing to lose that quarterback now and in the future. That's kind of what they told you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a great thing because, and something else people forget about is just because you didn't address specific needs for this season in the first round of the draft doesn't mean you can't do it later in the draft. And that's exactly what they did. They took defensive linemen later in the draft. So I think they did both. I think they took care of the future at the quarterback position from a position now. Mind you, if Kirk Cousins is playing really well for many years, they probably won't have a pick in the top 10. So this is a unique situation to grab a player at the quarterback position who you felt was a top 10 talent. They grabbed him, and now you have pieces for the rest of the draft. Defensive end they took, defensive tackles they took to solidify the defensive side of the ball. So I think they win the best of both worlds.
I want to circle back to your opinions on Penix specifically, but I do want to bring up, you said they drafted for other positions in later rounds. People were kind of like having qualms about the fact they didn't go for a corner.
Okay.
What I'm interested about that, though, is remember, Jerry Gray is now just like the DB's coach.
Yes.
He's not the assistant defensive coach, whatever title.
Yes.
That tells me Jerry Gray feels comfortable with his DB room.
Yeah.
And they also brought in Kevin King, and Kevin King played for the Packers when Jerry Gray was the DB coach with the Packers. So maybe he feels like that's someone who's going to add depth too. You know, they still have decent players. Who knows if Richie Grant gets in the mix more?
I like D'Offer too.
Trey
I think
Flowers,
D'Offer's a good player.
So, you know, maybe they like that. It didn't feel like it was as necessarily as a need that fans did. But I do want your perspective on Penix as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I like him. He can really sling it downfield too. When I was reading a lot of scouts on him from what people were reporting, it was almost like, you know, Washington has great receivers. But then you would read about it and it was like, but did Penix actually make his receivers look better than they were with his throws? I think for me, I don't think the age thing, he's 24 or about to be 24. Who cares?
No, exactly.
Quarterbacks play so old now. I don't even think it's a point. Now, the injuries is a little bit concerning. A little bit concerning. That is something where I'm like, okay, that's worth monitoring. But if you feel like he has the arm talent he has and you can protect him, then okay. But where did you land on Penix?
Yeah, man, I think he's a really good football player. I honestly didn't know coming into the draft that, you know, I thought it was intriguing when everyone from the front office went to go and see him throw that one time and went to go do an individual workout with him. So I found that kind of intriguing. I wondered if they might. I didn't think that they were going to take him at 8. I thought maybe they would try to move back into the first round with a trade or something and maybe get him at the back of the first round. So it did kind of surprise me a little bit when they took him at 8. But look, at the end of the day, I mean, I like what I saw from at Washington. He looks like a versatile guy. He's a heck of a thrower. He's a very accurate thrower. He has a very strong arm. And like you said, I think he helped those receivers look better at Washington. I think those guys are very talented wide receivers, but I think he did his part in helping them excel at Washington. And I think he falls in line with a lot of quarterbacks in today's NFL that's mobile enough to get to move around and keep their eyes downfield and make throws downfield. So, look, I mean, who was the most popular quarterback here in probably in the last 30 or 40 years, right? Michael Vick. He was a lefty with a strong arm. Michael Penix Jr., a lefty with a really strong arm. So, yeah, I think they satisfied a lot of different things with that pick. I like Michael Penix. I think he'll be a pretty solid quarterback. But, of course, it always comes back to how a guy's developed. Do you have the right people there to help him develop? That's what it's going to come back to because college is college. All these guys were really good at the college level. It's going to come down to your development with that particular NFL team. So, but I do like what they have in place from a coaching standpoint. Zach Robinson and
That's
those
what I was
kind
going
of
to
guys.
say. There's a lot to like.
Yeah.
Now, who knows if it pans out right now, but I think early on, I think people would say they like Raheem Morris and who he is as a person, as a head coach. I think Zach Robinson's a really great offensive mind who can help work with Penix really well. And then you have Kirk, who's obviously going to bring him along, and he's not going to be a diva either.
No.
You're not going to hear the stories you hear about Aaron Rodgers like you would for Kirk Cousins. That's just not who Kirk is. So I'm intrigued to see how it all plans out.
And I think that's part of it too. Like Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. Look, I mean, a lot of teams lost quarterbacks last year. You think the Jets wouldn't have loved to have had a Michael Penix Jr. to rely on when he went down last year, when Rodgers went down? I mean, so I don't think you can ever be too sure about the quarterback position. I mean, I think as many good players as you have at that position, you should take pride in it because, once again, I've said this a million times, nothing torpedoes your season quicker than your starting quarterback going down. So right now, if Kirk Cousins either A, doesn't play the way you think he should, or his body doesn't survive. He is 35 years old. If his body doesn't survive, you have a top 10 pick waiting right there behind him, ready to step in and play some ball. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. As a matter of fact, you know, before we take this sound here, I always laugh when we have Chris Lindstrom because you covered the Cleveland Browns, right? Remember Joe Bitonio?
Sure
I look at Chris Lindstrom as being the Falcons version of Joe Bitonio.
That's
like
fair.
Always available, super nice dude, a guard, and he always answers the questions that you want to hear, even when nobody else wants to talk. So I always enjoy hearing from him. Let's talk to Chris, you know, as he basically speaks about, they have OTAs that are getting started pretty soon, right? So I'm sure everybody's happy to get back to work with all the rookies, and they'll be greeted by veterans like Chris Lindstrom.
Where are you at with the Guardian cap as a union rep and then as a player?
Oh, man, I got like the worst photo of me ever that all those people keep using of me just tired in the middle of practice. But so we got to get a new one of that. But I think the improvements that the Guardian Cap made last year in terms of not like the first year would really ride up, and then I felt like in camp and stuff it was a lot better the second year, and I think the injury statistics really prove its effectiveness. I enjoy it for in season, but I won't be wearing it in games unless it's mandated. But I really in practice, I guess can't argue with the statistics.
Do you expect many people to wear it in game, or do you expect it to be pretty low? On that,
I think it'll be pretty low. I think every guy makes their own decisions, which is great, and there's so many different equipment things that guys do. I think like the Q collar is one of those things that guys wear as a preventative measure. There's different things, but I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't think so.
You talk about feeling very fortunate that there was so much continuity from not only Led and Sean, but the players and the guys around you on this offensive line. This is a position that this doesn't necessarily happen very often. When it comes to feeling how fortunate you are to have that, is it a sense where you kind of look at y'all can start faster, and what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think just the simplest things of like you strip everything down every single year, right? And you want to make sure your foundation's good going forward. But a lot of the times we're not wasting time to explain a drill. Like Led has a drill, we do the drill. As players who've been in the system, we understand the emphasis of the drill, what we're actually trying to work, what are we trying to accomplish in every single thing that we do. And we have that across the board. And then just in terms of, working with people, everybody knows what everybody's best looks like, or like kind of push themselves and like, hey, if something's not up to 100%, like you can kind of talk with them and like kind of see different things. And also we built those relationships where it's like, I'm constantly asking for feedback. So I ask the guys like, did you see something here? And they know the way that I play and I know the way that they play. And so it's like really, really such a great resource, and like really extremely fortunate for the culture that we have in our room. And I'm so lucky and thankful to be a part of it, because there's I forget 13 or 14 guys right now, but we're all pushing in the same direction, helping each other.
Chris, Jesse called Kirk Coach Cousins on the field right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just obviously he is who he is. What's your interaction been like with him, and how's that relationship, that bonding, that trust evolving?
It's been phenomenal. It feels like he's been here for years in terms of interactions with guys, and then you hear stories about just how great of a professional he is, and that reputation carries across the league. But then when you get here and watch the way the guy works, it's remarkable, and the way he interacts with us has been great. I mean, can't ask for anything more, and you just see the way he approaches every single day, the intensity behind every single rep, and the purpose behind it. It's really cool.
What's that intensity look like now before the coaches are out there? Because we talked to him, he's cold and he's got the chains and stuff.
Yeah.
What's he like out on the field?
Just detailed out with everything, right? Like you go and you do things, and like, what are you trying to get accomplished? Just like I don't know anything about routes or anything concepts, but just hearing the way he talks to those guys, or the way he talks to us about things, and just going through all the single steps, like in protections and stuff like that, saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking here. I've seen these looks. This is what works for me. Does that work for you guys? And like, good. And then just going through all the different communication aspects. And the biggest thing for us is just the communication part from him. Just it's a weird thing, but for offensive linemen, just hearing his voice and his timing, and like, how does he do his cadence? Every single guy like is Taylor's different than Kirk's, and just getting that timing down, and because that can be such an advantage. So just getting those reps right now is so crucial.
Kirk, is his in the huddle, or just working with him a lot like Matt, just the confidence, the experience? Do you find a lot of similarities?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of similarities, and I think both those guys just have a lot of experience. We're both great leaders, and then I think they were both extremely successful. And now that you say it, I think there really is a lot of similarities.
Ryan Morris has to come in and assess the roster. They go through free agency and the draft, and they don't get an offensive lineman in the draft. What does that say about, in your opinion, the offensive line? If they get ready before, they could always add something later, but as of recently, they haven't added anything in the draft.
I think we just got to go out there and earn it every single day, and I think that's the mentality of everybody in our room. Not riding the highs and lows of everything, and then just staying present in the moment and just trying to get better every single day. And really, just like you never want to rest on what you've done previously, because then your work doesn't really translate and doesn't show. And so I think just the mindset that we have every single day is to push ourselves, and what we did last year as a unit or what we've done previously isn't good enough, and then just keep building on everything. And then like what we were saying earlier, is just like when you have all those guys that have come back, everybody knows kind of what the standards in our room are. And so then you're able to kind of build upon those, and we get to push ourselves instead of, I guess, trying to stay the same.
Chris, what changes in approach when you're going from a quarterback room that was a little bit mobile, had designed runs, to now having a guy back there that's coming off an Achilles injury, and then one that has a pretty extensive knee injury history as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry ever about like the injury aspects of other guys, but the part of it is just the depth of the pocket, and just understanding where that is. Is that at 8 yards? Is that at 9 yards? Is that 10 yards? And then just like understanding the where, if it like a play action pass, like where is the quarterback setting up? Because just in your brain, you know like, okay, I get to this point, the defensive lineman is seeing this, they're probably going to counter back. Or if it's at 7 or 8 yards, I have to be more aggressive, because there's a shorter distance to the quarterback, where if it's deeper, you can kind of go back a little bit. So just like small things like that, just where the ball is getting out is always important, and that's things to learn kind of in this point, and then those reps, so you just know where to set.
What was your reaction to seeing Michael at 8?
I'm just really excited for him, and really excited for all the guys that we're bringing in. Terry does a phenomenal job, and really the entire scouts and staff and every guy they bring in here is just incredible high character, hard working, and then just fortunate to have those guys. I think they're coming in like 2 weeks, and it's going to be really exciting to get them in the program and get going.
When Jesse was just in here, he said his phone was blowing up so much on that first day, kind of like he was getting drafted again. I'm curious if that was the same scenario for you after Penix comes off the board. Is your phone lighting up like crazy?
Yeah, I think that happens to most of the guys anytime, anything. Like, I get so much information off of Twitter just as a fan like everybody else. Yeah, a little bit just of, I think really my family's just really excited for the draft and everything. So regardless who was getting drafted, I was going to get texted, but really excited for Michael.
I'm curious, you're one of a coalition of guys who was here when Rob was here a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see him, how have you seen him kind of evolve in himself from that time to now being not just an interim, not in COVID protocols, all that kind of stuff, but truly leading this organization?
Yeah, he's phenomenal. The energy that coach brings every single day is like, it's amazing. He's fun to be around, and then just the mindset of attacking every single day. And I was so fortunate when he got hired to come back. I was, so excited, and I told so many different guys, because, I know like Jake Hill and I have experience with him, and I don't know, it's great, and I enjoyed, obviously 2020 was not the season we wanted, but he was phenomenal, and I can't wait for this year. Like, I don't know, it's oh my God, I'm stumbling. It's exciting. Sorry.
How was your offseason? What do you do? Do you work? I mean, Jesse was saying how he does some yoga, he does some like different stuff that he might not typically do. Do you have anything you physically do to prepare, or is it just kind of recovery?
Yeah, I do like 2 weeks of like recovery, so I won't work out for about a week, and then I do about 2 weeks of kind of just reworking like the small groups, muscle groups, just like decelerization of like ankles and knees and all those small kind of things that kind of get neglected as the season. And then in the same sense of, training here, it's like you build up those foundations in your off-season lifting program. So it's like I'm not going to go in there and start back squatting 500 pounds, right, 2 weeks after the season ends. So I'm very fortunate. I have a great gym that, kind of writes out that program, builds it, and then slowly adding like conditioning and stuff. And then the conditioning really, like, I never want to really lose the conditioning aspect, so it's a lot of non-impact, so not really running, but as you guys know, there's many ways you can torture yourself doing cardio without having to run. So just a lot of that.
Chris, going back to Kirk for just 1 second, how invaluable is it to have a veteran like that and kind of a breath of fresh air, a weightlifting for you guys?
He's just the experience that he has and the looks that he's seen, and he's played in a lot of big games. He understands, the different challenges that he may face, or different looks and stuff in protection, and he communicates those to us. And then just with his experience, he kind of knows the way he wants things too, which is great. So we're all on board, and I think just that opening those lines of communication is huge. Appreciate it, guys. Good seeing you guys.
All right, got to love our buddy Lindstrom there. I'm pretty sure we hear from him a lot more times as we go through these off-season workouts and into the season. Speaking of the season, your favorite quarterback. I know this because you've told me this. Stetson Bennett, former UGA All-World quarterback, star, two-time national champion. Well, it sounds like he's back to work with the Rams. He's back in camp. They feel pretty positive about whatever was going on last year. He's back and he's ready to work. And that's a great thing, right, Bailey?
I'll believe it when I see it.
There we go. I knew it. That's why I just turned around, because I knew the negativity was coming. I mean,
if you get drafted and you have to take a full year off to handle something and you're a grown adult man,
wow,
I can't help you.
Wow.
I hope he got it together. We'll see. We'll see if he makes the roster even.
He's going to make the roster? Come on. They took him in the fourth round. I think they still think that he can play. Really?
You see my face?
What?
I'm not going to budge either way on this. I just think it's kind of like it's a thing.
Look, I think we know he wasn't there because it wasn't a football reason necessarily, right? He has some things going on. So I think that if he can manage whatever he has going on off the field and just concentrate on football. Like I said, I never thought Stetson Bennett was going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I thought Stetson Bennett was going to be a long-time backup, I guess like Chase Daniel or Ryan Fitzpatrick, or that sort of quarterback that has a 12 to 14-year NFL career being a backup. I still think he can be that. And if you listen to Sean McVay, his head coach, I think that he thinks he can still be that.
Stetson's been here, Gary. We're in phase one. It's been just meetings and then lifting, so our ability to get out on the field with the players hasn't existed yet. That's the thing that's the most fun, but he's done a great job being engaged in the meetings. We've had a lot of individual meetings up to this point. I know Dave Ragone has really enjoyed his interaction with him throughout, the first 6 days, if you will, with Monday through Thursday last week, and then now being through 2 days this week. And so it's been good. I mean, he looks good. He's had a good look in his eye. He's been attentive in the meetings, and then I'm looking forward to next week to being able to get out on the grass with all of our players. And
Sean McVay is very optimistic. Why can't you be optimistic?
I like Sean McVay. Sean McVay's good at what he does.
He's a great coach, isn't he?
Don't know if I feel about the same about Stetson Bennett in the NFL. He hasn't proven anything to me yet, so be determined.
That's Marist High School right there, Sean McVay. He was a great in the area, so he's very familiar to the Atlanta area. So check this out. Obviously, LeBron James and the Lakers eliminated the other night by the Denver Nuggets in the NBA playoffs. They were gone in 5. So LeBron James, who can be a free agent this summer, so obviously we've gone through this, 1,455 times with LeBron James throughout the course of his career, as far as him going to be a free agent. And now the odds are out on who the next team for LeBron could be, where he could be headed, right? Okay. So right now when you look at the odds, they believe that he's going to be sticking with the Lakers, which is what I believe too. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think this is just having his attention and his fun over the summer. But if he does leave, the teams with the best odds is the New York Knicks. That one sort of kind of caught me off guard. They have the second best odds. Mm-hmm. The Cleveland Cavaliers, for obvious reasons. He's played in Miami before. The Miami Heat have the next best odds. The Golden State Warriors, I don't think I can see that happening. And then the Atlanta Hawks at number 6.
So I'll say this. A lot of those aren't happening, and I can nix these. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
New York is not happening because you're not going from L.A. to New York.
Exactly.
His life is in L.A. He's staying in L.A.
I agree.
He's not going to the Cavs. The Cavs already gave him the keys to the castle. I don't think the Cavs would do it again, quite frankly. I don't even think it's a LeBron thing.
I'm with you.
The Heat, he did what he needed to do in Miami. There's no point in going back. Warriors, that's just dumb and not happening. So then you have the Hawks.
How'd they even make the list?
Probably because they think they're going to ship Trae Young or DeJounte Murray or maybe even both. I don't know. Maybe that's like the trade value aspect. This is what I will say.
Or maybe they think the Hawks will draft Bronny or something.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Let's not forget this is all centered around Bronny.
Right.
Where Bronny goes in the league, it's going to be wherever LeBron ends up wanting to go, whoever drafts him. We'll see if he has enough pull to get him to LA somehow.
I think he will. I think that's what's going to happen.
But yeah, it's all around Bronny and nothing else, quite frankly. That's how I see it.
I think it's already in the works. I think right now, with him being a free agent this summer, I think the Lakers are going to want to give him, because I guess when you think about it, he does kind of have some leverage because he doesn't have to stay in LA, right? I mean, he probably is dangling Cleveland out there or dangling whatever team might draft Bronny James. So I think that'll be his leverage.
I don't think he has to dangle anything. When you're LeBron James, you get to call your shots.
Yeah.
So he's going to say, hey, this is what I want. If you're not going to give it to me, I will go somewhere else and get what I want.
Right. Now, I do think
someone will do it.
Yeah, I think someone will, but I do think his leverage isn't what it used to be because I don't think his impact on a organization and a franchise isn't what it used to be.
He's
because,
not young.
Right.
He's also somewhat proven that he wants to be in on the know with a head coach and the GM and calling the shots, which I understand why you would give him that power, but sometimes is he operating out of the best interest of the franchise?
No, of course not.
Or what the coach wants? No. Probably not.
No.
So there's a lot of moving parts with that. I do think there's a lot more organizations that would not do it in today's age than would.
Yeah.
But I still do think there are organizations hungry enough to win that they would get Bronny and LeBron.
Well, speaking about star power, I don't know how much you've been watching NBA playoffs, but Atlanta native Anthony Edwards has taken the NBA playoffs by storm. I mean, that dude looks like he's the next up as far as NBA superstars. As far as, we talked about LeBron James and maybe that class going out with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Those three are kind of stepping aside now and making room for the new school of the NBA. And Anthony Edwards looks like the leader of the new school. I mean, he swept Kevin Durant's team out of the playoffs with the Suns. And I tell you what, I know he played at UGA as well. I didn't see this coming.
No, I don't think a lot of people did, but isn't that the best when you get an unlikely star and they start to rise and start putting people on notice? It seems that Anthony Edwards is really anyone can really talk about now on NBA talk shows and whatnot with how things have been going for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at, I think a lot of talented players come into the NBA. Wemby's a talented player. Even a guy on this team, Karl Anthony Towns, was a #1 overall pick, and he's a very talented player. I think what Anthony Edwards has, he has that instant ability to command a team and command a room. You need to be a leader. Anthony Edwards has it. I mean, when you watch the press conferences after the game, he's sitting down next to Karl Anthony Towns, and he's saying, look, this is what I need out of you, Karl. I need this. This is what I need out of you. I need you to stay out of foul trouble. I need you to do X, Y, Z. I mean, he's only 22 years old, and there's no question that he's the leader of that franchise. Look, I was one of the ones who thought a few years ago that nobody would ever win a championship in Minnesota. I felt like when you look over the years, guys like Kevin Garnett, Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins, those are probably the three best players at the time in the history of that organization. And they all went somewhere else, and within a couple years, they were NBA champions for another team. So I thought Anthony Edwards would probably follow that same path. But I truly believe now in watching Anthony Edwards in these playoffs, I think at some point he's going to deliver a championship to Minnesota because I think he's that one special dude that feels like he can.
Yeah, yeah.
The Hawks need a player like him. If only the Atlanta native would have stayed home.
Hawks need a little bit of help.
Right. A lot of help. So before we get out of here, Bailey, anything on your mind?
Yes, nothing sports related. It is the rap beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I can't stop seeing videos of the breakdowns of Kendrick's latest diss track, so I want to leave us with this. Are you Team Drake or Team Kendrick Lamar? All
right, so I think I probably lean more with Kendrick Lamar. I love Drake. I love the music he's put out, but it's hard to top Kendrick. I mean, come on. Who about you? What side you on?
I feel like it's a battle of Drake, who thinks he's just the most popular, and Kendrick Lamar, who thinks he's a better lyricist.
Okay.
And I think
That's
both
funny.
are probably accurate.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the music that comes out of it. Thank you.
I bet y'all didn't expect that ending to the show, right? That's Sports Night on a Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.